Hey guys, it's Kathy from Bake Life. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today's recipe was inspired by a friend of mine who said, and I quote, "I can't boil eggs." So she wanted to make a quick dessert for her boyfriend for his birthday. So she's like, what can I make? So I racked my brain for about 2 seconds and said, mousse. A mousse is super simple. There's tons of variations you can do with it. You know, you can do a fruit, you can do a chocolate. Today we're gonna do a pumpkin mousse. So again, super simple. I think it's like 5 ingredients. Now I've taken a recipe that I've adapted from the Food Network, so thanks Food Network. And we're gonna change it up just a little bit. So a couple things to start with. You'll of course see the recipe down below. We're gonna start with canned pumpkin. So remember with canned pumpkin, you get 100% pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling. Because if you get the filling, it's already got the sugar and spices. Now you can use that for this example. That way you don't have to worry about all the other stuff, but I like to start from scratch and add my own spices. So, and if you're super crazy, you can cook your own pumpkin, but we're not doing that today. So again, regular, just pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling. We're gonna use some sugar. Now, the recipe calls for regular sugar. I actually try to follow a low carb diet, so I'm actually gonna be using a sugar alternative. I use a blend of erythritol, a little bit of stevia, and I just discovered allulose, so we're gonna try that today, see how that comes out. But again, regular sugar is fine. The measurement given is for regular sugar. So if you're using an alternative sugar, adjust accordingly. And then we're gonna use our spices. So again, the original recipe calls for a pumpkin pie spice, which is great. Pumpkin pie spice is typically cinnamon, nutmeg, and ginger. So those are all great spices. If that's what you've got, awesome, use that. I like to tweak it a little bit. So we're gonna be, of course, using cinnamon and ginger. Ginger is the real light one. So this is a powdered ginger, not like a fresh ginger. So powdered ginger. And then another one called, this is actually a Jamaican allspice I got a while back, and I just really love it. I'm not a fan of nutmeg. Sometimes nutmeg can be very overpowering if you put too much in. So I like this because it still kind of gives it that same nutty type of a flavor, but it's a little more mild. So we're gonna use that one. And then of course our heavy cream. So our heavy cream is actually in the fridge. It's already measured out, and we're gonna be actually whipping it to make whipped cream. And the important thing to remember when you're making whipped cream is that you want to make everything as cold as possible. So like right now, my bowl is in the freezer. Typically, I'll actually put my beaters, whatever I'm using for mixing, in there too. I forgot today, no big deal. And then my cream is going to sit in there until I'm ready to use it as well, because you want everything as cold as possible to ensure that you get the best and the maximum fluff when you're doing the actual whipping. All right, so to get started, again, I'm going to cut the recipe in half a little bit. The original calls for 8 servings. It's just my husband and I, we don't need 8 servings of pumpkin mousse. So I've got my pumpkin measured out here. I threw a dash of salt in there because I'm big on, let's put some salt in it. It kind of cuts down the sweetness a little bit. And then I've got my sugar alternative, so I'm gonna just dump that in. I'm gonna save a little bit. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. So dump almost all of it in there. You can keep a tablespoon or 2 behind. You just mix it up, super easy. You don't need a mixer or anything for this part, just a spatula is fine. Now it's gonna come to our spices. Now, again, the original recipe calls for about a 1/4 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. I'm sorry, a 1/2 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. So again, I'm gonna change it up a little bit, and I like mine a little spicier, and you can do this to your taste. So start with that 1/2 teaspoon, you know, throw it in there and kind of taste it and see what you think. So I'm actually gonna start with, I'm gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon, no, I'm sorry, a 1/4 teaspoon of regular cinnamon. So we're gonna start with that. So I got my little measuring spoons. And you know, when you just kind of shake it, doesn't, I mean, we're not totally level. We're throwing it in there, it's all good. All right, now we're ginger. Again, ginger is a stronger flavor, so, you know, add it carefully. I'm gonna do less than this. I'm gonna just do like a little tiny, so this is a 1/4 teaspoon. This is probably like 1/8 of a teaspoon. So just a very little bit, just I wanna get some of the flavor, but I don't want it to be too like spicy, you know, because ginger can sometimes carry a little bit of heat. And now my allspice, the same thing, just a little bit. We're like 1/8 a teaspoon. This, again, this is a strong flavor as well, so just a little tiny bit there. I'm gonna dump that all in. So at this point right now, you can taste it. It's not gonna be gross or anything like that. The pumpkin itself is already cooked, so you're not like eating anything raw. Let's mix it up. Let's taste it here. Always get a clean spoon. You don't wanna contaminate your bowl. All right, so you can already see it's getting a nice dark color. All the spices are getting incorporated. So we're gonna taste a little bit. Oh yeah, that's nice and spicy. It tastes like pumpkin pie, like it's amazing. So that's perfect. Again, I kind of did it to my tasting. Start with that 1/2 teaspoon of the pumpkin pie spice. If you want to play around, add some other spices, go for it. Just keep tasting to make sure you don't overdo it. And then also make sure you have enough in there that's to your liking. All right, so we're gonna set that to the side for just a minute. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grab our bowl, which is in my freezer. Another thing with mixing whipped cream is you wanna do it in a metal or a glass bowl. Again, it has to do with getting a nice fluffy texture, and that if you do not have this metal or a glass bowl, the plastic sometimes it just doesn't work right. I don't know the science behind it, that's just what they tell me. So let me grab that. Let's grab our heavy cream, which again, I've already got measured out. Still nice and cold. My bowl, you can see, is already frosting up, nice and cold. We're gonna pour that in. Try and get that all out of there. Now a little bit of sugar that we reserved, again, could just be a tablespoon or so. I just like that because I like to sweeten a little bit. You don't have to. All right, now we're gonna start mixing. Again, when you're mixing whipped cream, you gotta go on high. You can't be slow. You can do this by hand if you really wanna work out. You certainly can do it, but it takes a lot. So let's go ahead and start mixing this. So you see, when I pull it out, the tips are kind of standing up. It's thick, it's creamy. So that took us maybe, what, like a minute and a half? Not too long. Okay, so put those away, go with that. So now we're almost done. Crazy, I know, right? So the important thing now is the folding, right? So if you're not sure what folding means, what we're gonna do, so we've got our bowl of whipped cream. Now if you wanna get crazy and you wanna add a little extra whipped cream, say like another half a cup to what the recipe calls for, what you can do is whip it up, and then at this point now you take it and set it aside. So now you've got a nice sweetened whipped cream that you can actually top your mousse with, which is kind of a fun little thing. So if you want to do that, go for it, separate it now. I'm not gonna do it today. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our pumpkin mix, right? And we're gonna gently put it into our whipped cream. Now what we're doing when we're whipping the cream, we're literally whipping air into it. So the air is what makes it nice and fluffy. You know, the little molecules of the fat and everything are kind of really coming into incorporating with the air. Now the reason you can't whip like a skim milk or even a whole milk is there's just not enough fat. So the heavy whipping cream it's full fat. Usually it's like, I think 32% fat is typically what you'll get. And if it does say less than like 25%, it won't work probably for whipping to whip up. It's just the way the fat works with the air. So what we're gonna do now is incorporate that pumpkin into our mousse or into our heavy cream. So we're gonna fold. So folding is a super easy technique. I know a lot of people get confused about it. So I'm gonna show you right now, right? So we're gonna kind of cut it in half and then we fold it over. Then we turn the bowl, cut it in half, turn it over, cut it in half, turn it over. And the reason you wanna do this delicately, whether it's whipped cream that you're making or egg whites are typically some of the things you would use it for if you're making like a fancy like chinois cake or something like that. You're folding because you don't want to deflate all that air that you pumped into the fat and this cream. You don't want to deflate that. So you got to do it very gently. So we're just going to fold that until it's incorporated all the way. You don't want to just vigorously mix it because that's going to just ruin everything. It's going to deflate. It's not going to be as pretty. It'll still taste fine, but it's just not going to look as pretty. So you see I'm kind of scraping the bowl a little bit, cutting it in half. I turn the bowl occasionally. You'll notice during the video when I was whipping the cream that I turned it here and there too. Oh, sorry if you hear my dogs barking. They're outside when I'm cooking. Otherwise they'd be under my feet. And then there'd probably be dog hair in the food, which is gross. All right, so we're almost done. You can see it's pretty well incorporated. It's a nice color, if you can see that. It's like a real nice light orange. You can see all those spices in there, which is great. So again, we don't want to mix it too much because you don't want it to deflate that with cream. So that's it, guys, we're done. This is a super easy recipe. As far as what we want to put it in, I've got these cute little stemless wine glasses that have whipped cream sprayed all over them. So it gets a little messy when you're whipping the cream. If you don't have a big enough bowl, maybe put a towel over the top so it doesn't spray everywhere. But as far as putting them in, you can put them in these cute little wine glasses. I've got these ramekins. Again, they're from the Food Network too. And the original recipe, I think, calls for 8 servings, like I said. I'm just gonna do the 4. This is still a lot. So I'm not gonna get fancy with it. We're just gonna plop it right in there. You can get a piping bag if you're real fancy. So if you're not sure what a piping bag is, we'll talk about that another day. So that looks really nice. Now, if you had saved some of that whipped cream from before, now would be a great time to go put that on top. We'll do some in here because it's gonna look really pretty. When you're doing a real pretty glass like this, you know, be aware of how you're putting it in. If you're really looking for presentation, you wanna make it look real nice. Not like what I just did, how I got all over the rim. All right, so that looks beautiful. Now, if you wanna get super fancy, we got our extra cinnamon here. Make sure you screw the lid on. You can do an extra little sprinkle if you're like a huge cinnamon lover. There you go, look at that. Oh, it's so good. Let's take a bite. Where's our spoon from before? Our spoon. It tastes just like pumpkin pie filling, but like, you know, when you get pumpkin pie and you put the whipped cream on top and you just eat that part, that's exactly what this tastes like. Really light, refreshing, great for this beautiful fall day that we have right now here in the Midwest. The leaves are changing color. It's cool, crisp in the morning. It's fantastic. So again, guys, pumpkin mousse, super easy. Find the recipe below. If you have any questions and comments, leave them here on YouTube. You can, of course, always find me on Instagram at BakeLifeKathyJ. Or if you love to bake and you love to share, or you want to start your own bakery, or you're baking from home and selling those items, please find us on Facebook at Bake Life Community. It's a great place for everyone, I say, where bakers can grow and rise. So we kind of, a rising tide raises all boats, right? So we all help each other out. All right, so thank you so much again for watching today, guys. I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much.